This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started here today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Make sure you never miss an episode. If you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Be very appreciated. Helps us see what you guys like, what you guys don't like, see the ways we can improve on the show for you guys. So obviously, at the end of the day, it's about you, the fans. And speaking of that, if you're on social media, we are also on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can discuss, we can debate, all that fun stuff. And I don't want to say surprising, because that's not necessarily the right word, but I wonder. No, surprising. I would say surprising, just because I was curious to see how much people would be in tune with this, and it seems like, based on social media, that many people tuned in to watch the NFL Combine. I mean, it's a popular thing, especially among, and maybe I just follow a lot of NFL fans, and so that could help that. But it seemed like a lot of people were very in tune, very much so watching, and that was always going to be the worry is not the right word, but the wonder was just that how much was this going to translate this Combine in prime time situation. And to this point, I mean, for at least for night one, but again, they put the most important position in terms of guys people want to see on night one, so that made sense. But yeah, for this night one, it seemed like it was a success. A lot of people tuned in, a lot of people were interested, a lot of interesting stuff happened, both good and unfortunate. And yeah, it kind of worked out. I was also kind of uncertain about the 4 to 11 thing. Now, you can't have a run all night. And you don't want to add more extra days because no one wants to stay extra days. So I understand why you have to do it that long. But at the same time, like 4 o'clock, that's a little early because East Coast-wise, very few people are out of work then. The only people that are really going to be able to watch are draft guys that are there, who I guess that's mainly who it's for. But you're trying to televise it for the fans, and the fans aren't going to be home from work unless they host they write for a blog or record podcasts or do different things where they don't work a typical 9 to 5. Let me just say that. And then obviously if you're on the West Coast, you're out of luck. It starts at 1 o'clock over there. The good thing is that it's over by 8 for you. So that's nice. You have the rest of your night, but at the same time, you're probably getting home and you're probably just catching the tail end. Not the tail end, but you're probably just catching the end of the second group, and where you're missing all of the first group more or less, and you're missing the tight ends, which depending on what team you are, that might have been something that interested you. I know if you're a Panthers too, because they just let go of Greg Olsen potentially, so they may be looking for a new tight end. Patriots fan, Bears fan, Cowboys fan. Then you're interested in the tight end because they could all use upgrades there. Though the Bears may be looking at Austin Hooper, an impending free agent for the Falcons. So we'll talk about that more when we get closer to free agencies. But they may not need to draft a guy. But yeah, so that was my only issue because I, having to work like most normal Americans today, did not get home in time to watch the first receiver group. I obviously missed all the tight ends, but not in time to see the first receiver group in full. I caught bits and pieces, and I was keeping in tune on Twitter on my way home, which I would not wish to MJ Transit upon any of you out there listening to me. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's terrible. Don't take it if you don't have to. But that's a different conversation for a different podcast. But I digress. But yeah, so I was keeping track on the other night. So I got home while some of the drills were still going on, and then I was able to watch the entire second group, which was the main thing I wanted to see. I wanted to watch Henry Ruggs run. That was one of my main things I wanted to catch tonight, and I was able to see that, so that was fun. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. No, yeah, again, surprised not the right word, but I was impressed by how well this first night overall went. And yeah, and I was like I said, I was just impressed. I was happy to see like no one really got majorly hurt. There was no big hiccups, though obviously, like we'll talk about in a little bit, Henry Ruggs did only run the 40 because he did end up getting hurt during. Oh, I'd take that back. He did like the vertical jump and like the broad jump and stuff like that, and put up big numbers there too. I mean, that's not surprising. A lot of these NFL guys are really good athletes outside of just being good football players. I mean, there was a video going around, I think it was from when Henry Ruggs was in high school, of him throwing down like windmill dunks in games. Like, he's a freak athlete. So him putting up big numbers outside of the 40 was not that surprising. But some of the other interesting things that happened outside of that were, as we had discussed, I was curious to see if Joe Burrow was going to throw. He did not throw on night one. Or, obviously, on night one, so that means he's not going to throw this weekend, and that was something that I was not shocked by. I kind of would have, if I was part of his team, I would have told him like, hey, throwing doesn't really help you, because from my perspective and the way I view it, if you're a top 5 pick, the combine does nothing for you personally. Because the combine is more so for those other guys to maybe help either raise their stock or lower their stock, depending on how they perform. But for the top guys, while it's so cool to like, competition, like, go show you're the best, blah blah blah. There's nothing really to gain from throwing at the combine. If you're, like I said, if you're a top tier quarterback, just because you're throwing receivers you don't know. Your time is not going to be 100% right. I mean, Joe Burrow is extremely accurate, so maybe he would have been fine. And he would have been thrown in the first group, so at least he would have had a chance to potentially throw to Justin Jefferson, who had a great day, which we will talk about in a little bit. So that would have helped him. And again, he's not going to be able to throw to him every time. So he was just like, and it just, I mean, like I said, he still could have had a good day, but it's just like, if he has a good day, it doesn't matter. If he has a bad day, it really doesn't matter. So it was like, what was the point? And for him, the more important things are like the measurements. Though, I mean, obviously, like I said, he got knocked for that because of the hand size thing. We'll see if that is an issue going forward or not. But I mean, he didn't have a fumbling problem at LSU because of his quote unquote small hands. So I don't know why that would rear its ugly head once he got to the league. But you never know. And then obviously for the interview stuff, that was really that's what most of the teams are there for anyway. They're there, just want to get to meet with these players, talk with them, see what they're like, see what they understand about the game, see what they're like away from the game, stuff like that you can't tell just from film. So that's really what was important for Joe Burrow to go through that stuff. Though, I mean, in fairness, he just has to nail one interview with the Bengals, or bomb one interview, depending on how you look at it. Because if he doesn't want to go to the Bengals, then hey, you could sabotage that. So there is that. But I mean, I don't think he didn't strike me as that kind of guy. So again, he's probably going to go in there, try to kill it, and that's really the one that matters. Like Washington, like if he gets past the Bengals and something I don't want to say it went terribly wrong, because they just like Tua or Chase Young more. Now, if it's not any of those three, then something went terribly wrong. Because there's no one else I could really understand. Like, people were talking about. Who we were talking about in a second, Jordan Love potentially going like top 5, and I was like, what? Like, see that's the kind of stuff that gets people fired. I don't wish people to lose their jobs, but taking Jordan Love in the top 5 is something that could get somebody fired. I'm not saying it will, because I mean, people thought trading up for Patrick Mahomes was going to get people fired. In fairness, trading up for Mitch Trubisky may end up getting Ryan Pace fired, so there is that. So, I mean, there's hits and misses. Everybody has hits and misses. It is what it is. But, long story short, Joe Burrow decided not to throw. Again, did not surprise me one bit. I would have advised, and that's the word I was thinking. I was looking for a couple months ago. Advised him not to do it. and he didn't. T. Higgins also didn't do it, so that was interesting. Just because I figured, all right, if you don't want to run, you don't want to run. That's fine. If your 40's not up to where it wants it to be, you're not trying to embarrass yourself on national TV. I get it, but just to not do anything, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, hey, teach his own. He's put together a very good college career, so there's not that much that the combine could have done for him, other than, like I said, the 40 was really the only thing that would have mattered. But yeah, when you see guys like Lamb and Judy and Jefferson and Rieger, well, Ruggs was going to do it. Ruggs and Chenault were going to do it, but obviously it didn't work out for them because of injuries. But you see guys, other top guys out there competing. It was interesting that he chose not to. But again, teach his own. No judgment here from me on that regard. But yeah, some other things from day one. Some of the new drills that they showed. The new drill that they showed that I hated was that goal line fade drill. Just because I'm like, I don't understand why they just made a fake goal line like in the middle of the field when you have literally two end zones. I understand the one end zone is like they have like things set up from the 40 or whatever. So all right, don't use that end zone. Just walk the guy. Like, was it too much to ask to just walk the guys down to the far end zone and just have them run fade routes in the end zone? Like, I don't understand the purpose of creating an end zone. Like, just have the actual end zone so it's not like weird and people aren't throwing fade routes on like the 40 yard. It looked weird to me. So maybe that's something they'll work through as they go through with these new drills and stuff. But I didn't understand that at all. I was just like, just use the end zone. Like, why? I didn't understand the purpose. Especially if they only did it on the right side. They didn't even throw it to the left, if I remember correctly. They only threw it on the right side, so I'm like, you could easily just have done that on one side of one of the end zones. Again, you have two on a football field. There's no need to make it an end zone with cones at the 40-yard line. It was weird. Well, I guess I don't think because I know the second group that was the last thing they did. I don't remember if this is the first group that was the last route they ran. But if it was, then yeah, just walk them down to the end zone. It's not you have to set up for anything else. Just walk all the guys down to the end zone. Run fade routes like you normally would, even though it's weird because fade routes are, analytically speaking, are very unsuccessful normally. So, don't know why they would add that in. I mean, I don't say I don't know why. I get it, but it's just like like I said, from an analytical standpoint, it's not a very successful route to throw. So it's weird that they had that in there, but it is what it is. So that I didn't like at all. And then also, we found out today that Tua's medical. Well, I don't know to say for certain we found this today. We might have, they might have, I forget if they mentioned this yesterday, but I know they talked about it on the broadcast today, was that Tua's medical came back pretty clean, which is a good sign for him, both for his career going forward and also for potentially him throwing before the draft, which could, in theory, change some things up, because, I mean, there are many people that will argue, and I could very well be one of them. I'm kind of on the fence on this, but many people will argue that Tua, if healthy, is the better quarterback than Joe Burrow, just because, again, he has a longer track record of success at the college level. I mean, they both won national championships, though Burrow did it over the course of a more impressive season. But going into the season, no one thought Joe Burrow would be this high, while Tua was definitely up there. And the only reason why he's not up there now is really just injury. If he was perfectly healthy, there'd be much more debate. I'm not going to. Now there's just like, all right, people just assume Joe Burrow because, again, great season and Tua's not healthy. But if Tua's healthy, I mean, there's at least a conversation to be had. And it sounds like he's trending towards good health heading into the start of his NFL career, which again could shake up the top five, and like that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But so that was another good thing to hear from day one. But yeah, overall, day one was successful in my opinion. And from a player perspective, I know there were certain players that definitely stood out and had their high moments, and some players that maybe have to go back to the drawing board just a wee bit. So we will talk about some of the stars from this day one right after this break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Podcast Network. So, as we touched on in the first segment, the NFL Draft was the day one finished up here tonight. I'm recording this on Thursday night, and some players definitely helped their case a bit in terms of their potential draft stock, in terms of rising them maybe higher up in the first round, maybe earlier rounds than they would have necessarily gone had they not had a good day. And one of those guys was LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson. I mean, obviously, he had an outstanding season. If you followed college football, he had, 18 touchdowns on the season, I think. Over 1,400 yards. Had the big game in the semifinal game against Oklahoma, where he looked literally unguardable. It was great film and all that stuff. But the one knock or concern with him, I should say, was his speed. And now, the 40-yard dash is an interesting indicator of speed, because normally when guys are fast, they're fast, and when they're slow. Like the 40 doesn't really change that too much. Like I said, if we're dealing with Henry Ruggs, we'll talk about him in a second, but he looked fast on the field, and then when you ran, he was fast. So those things don't normally change. But some guys just don't have. Some guys aren't track guys, so they don't have good form. Or some guys were track guys are trained to do, so they do have good form. That shaves time. If you've ever run track or know anybody that's ever run track, you know form when running is very important, both in the way you start out, and then the way in which you run to maximize your speed and minimize your time, I guess you could say. So, guys that have good technique can shave points off. Shave tenths or hundredths of a second off their time, and guys with bad form will add time to again, that makes sense. So I don't necessarily say that Justin Jefferson ever looked this fast, though in fairness, I as a Eagles fan, we're in desperate need of we're in desperate need of a wide receiver right now, so that's another reason why I was very much locked in on tonight. But last year we needed a running back, and being a Penn State guy, I was happy to see us take Miles Sanders, but I was uncertain coming out of Penn State about his speed, because he just didn't look that fast. Or maybe it was just the way the pads, he just looked bigger at Penn State. You knew with Saquon, Saquon looked fast when he was on the field. Miles Sanders didn't always look that fast, but when we got to the combine, I think he ran the 4.4s, and I was surprised. But then when he got on the field in the pros, one, he looked thinner, which was interesting. But two, he looked fast again. So I was maybe something I just missed when I was watching the Penn State games, that he just the speed that. He did return kicks when he was a freshman, so you can't be slow to do that. But just for whatever reason, when he was the lead back, it didn't look like he had that speed or that burst. But I guess in comparison to Saquon, it's hard to measure up in that regard. But the point of all that was to say that though Justin Jefferson didn't really look like he showcased that speed while at LSU, maybe it's always been there and we just didn't know. Like I'm saying, you can train and work to cut down on your time and all that fun stuff, but at the same time, the speed, there's only so much training and technique that can get you to run a 4.4. Like, a person that runs a 4.7 is not running a 4.4 with good technique. Like, that doesn't happen. That person that may run a 4.5 might run it, but I'm saying regardless, he ran a good time for, in general, but also for himself to help prove to people, like, hey, look, I'm not just a great route runner, I also have some speed too. And that was good. That was basically his only real knock, was just people were worried about the speed, and he silenced that right up. So he had a big day, big performance. Another guy was Chase Claypool from Notre Dame. He dominated the what's it called, the testing. What he ran what, a 4.43, I believe it was. I want to make sure I got this right. No, Denzel Mims too. I'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, Chase Claypool ran a 4.43, I believe, and that is one of the fast. And there was Calvin Johnson numbers in terms of at his size. He's because many people were saying that coming into this that he's just like a big receiver that could potentially move to tight end. He said the same thing about Jawan Johnson out of Oregon, formerly at Penn State as well, but out of Oregon. Covering that he could be a guy that ends up just puts a little bit more weight on moves to tight end. But when you run a 4.43, that's all. That tight end talks out the window. Though, I mean, Evan Ingram's a fast. He could still be Evan Ingram depending on the team he goes to. That's basically what Evan Ingram is. He's just like a big receiver that's fast. But at least for the time being, he still has a chance to be a wide receiver. And I mean, at 6'4" and 238 pounds, I guess technically it's 4.42 is absurd. And I mean, it's not the 4.27 that Ruggs ran, but it's still absurd for that height and that weight. Apparently, the info tweet out that he joins Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron, as the only wide out 6'4", that's at least 6'4" and 235 pounds or bigger to run a sub 4.45 40. So that's, I mean, again, no one's saying he's going to be Megatron, and if you didn't know, Megatron at his comment ran a 4.35, which I mean just shows you the athletic freak that he was, and it showcased himself on the field, so that's not that surprising. But and no one's saying he's going to be that, but to be that big and run that fast, that's impressive. So that definitely bumps him up at least a round or two, and that's just not the only thing he did. He also had a 40.5 inch vertical, which was, I think, he was fourth, and I know he had a good broad jump too. Like he lit up all the tests, and then he looked good in the drills. So yeah, he had a spectacular day for himself. A guy that was obviously he's still probably not going to go in the first round, but it was like maybe a mid round guy, like they were saying, potentially move to tight end. Now it's like, all right, no, people might look at him more as a receiver still, just because, like I said, he looked good, ran good, tested good. These are kind of performances that the combine is for these kind of guys to help the mid-tier guys to help boost their stock up. And speaking of, I guess we can talk about Henry Ruggs now. He was probably the main attraction of the night, to see if he was going to break the all-time 40-yard dash record. As I said, he did not. But I mean, a lot of that was because, well, he claimed that his first run, which they stopped him on, that was the one where he was gonna get it. The other two, I think he ran a 4.27, and I forget the other. I know unofficially the second one was a 4.31. I don't know what the official time was, but he got close. And when you saw the sign, what came of it, of him versus John Ross, who holds the record, basically only thing John Ross had him on was just that he was leaning forward. Henry Ruggs crossed the line running straight up, and even in the fastest one he did run, it looked like he stumbled a little bit. He didn't get a good start. So again, he ran a 4.27 and was mad and had a bad start. So imagine if he just got off like a good start like he did on the first one that they blew dead. He probably could have ran the 4.1s, or at least in the lower 4.2s. I'm going to say 4.1. That's absurdly fast. Though in fairness, he looks absurdly fast on the field. So there is that. But yeah, the only thing John Ross really had on, just like he crossed the line leaning forward. That was literally it. Like Henry Ruggs ran like straight up, and John Ross was leaning forward. That's the only reason why his time was faster. So like I'm saying, there's a chance that at the pro day he could potentially break that record. Now, what is unfortunate is that that's the only thing he did outside of the vertical and the broad jump, which he lit up to. I think he had a 42-inch vertical, which is absurd at his. I mean, it's absurd for anybody, but just absurd at his size. But yeah, it was just unfortunate. I think he hurt his quad or whatever, and then they shut him down. So that was unfortunate. I wanted to see him go through the drill, just because, I mean, again, as an Eagles fan, the Eagles are in desperate need of a receiver. So I'm keeping my eyes on any and all receiver prospects that I can. And Henry Ruggs was one of my guys. I enjoyed watching him at Alabama. So I was going to keep my eyes on him, but didn't get to see him perform. But I did also get to see who was it? Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. Who Jerry Jeudy ran a little bit faster than I thought. I thought he was going to run about a 4.5. Ran in the 4.4s, 4.46. I know unofficial. On the first one was his fastest one. I don't know what the official time was, but that was faster than I thought. And CeeDee ran about a 4.5, which, I mean, many people are comparing him to like a DeAndre Hopkins or Michael Thompson. Those guys ran in the 4.5, so that comp matches right up. But yeah, they looked great in the drills with that. I mean, they're both great route runners. They're both natural catchers of the football. So them going through the gauntlets and all those other drills didn't shock me. I mean, CeeDee Lamb closed the show down beautifully with an acrobatic, quote unquote, touchdown catch on the like I said, the weird fade route they had him run in the middle of the field. But he went up, plucked it out of the air, twisted, turned, got both feet in. It was a great cap on the night, and it's just, again, that was DeAndre Hopkins-esque, that was Michael Thomas-esque. I mean, it looked like if you could see either of those guys going with making that exact same catch that CeeDee Lamb made. So, I mean, outside of like maybe would you like to run a little faster potentially, but again, DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas are arguably the two best receivers in the league. Don't run in the 4.3s. It's not necessary when you can run routes as well and catch the ball as well as those guys can. And CeeDee Lamb is, at least in college, he was at that level. We won't know if he's at that level in the NFL for a couple of years, but in college he was at that level. So they had good days in terms of on the field stuff, not necessarily just the running stuff. The two guys I was a little bit surprised they ran a little slower than I thought, though still fast. What ran a little slower was Jalen Reagor and Brandon Ayuk. I think that's how you pronounce it, from Arizona State. They both look very fast when you watch them play, but then they didn't necessarily come to fruition in the 40. But again, like I said earlier, 40 is all technique. So it's just one of those things where it's like, could they probably would have liked to run a little bit faster? Yeah, but I mean, Jalen Reagor's other testing was absurd. His broad jump and his vertical were sick. Same with Ayuk. So, I mean, the little 40 is not going to hurt nobody. And again, if they look fast on film, they're fast. The 40 is not going to change that. If they're running and they're not getting caught from behind, it's safe to say they're pretty fast. 40 be damned. But I know the one other receiver I want to talk about that did a good job. Wouldn't get a job for himself was Denzel Mims, actually from Baylor, who had a great off-season work, if you will. He was one of the big risers from the Senior Bowl circuit, and he came in, measured 6'3". Well, I don't know exactly. I think it was around 6'3", about 207. So a big guy. So this isn't a little guy we're talking about. He ran a 4.38. Which is in the 90th percentile. This is all from Brad Kelly 17 on Twitter. Ran like I said, a 4.38, had a 38.5 vertical jump and a 10.11 broad jump, and put up very good numbers over the last 3 seasons. He's had 182 receptions, almost 2,000 yards, and 28 touchdowns. And like I said, had a great Senior Bowl and also has a track background. He was a state champion in Texas. So there's some fast guys in Texas, and was at the 200 meters. So he's another guy that had himself a day, and then he looked good in the drills. Or I think he did some of the drills. Did he do any of the drills? I don't know. It's hard just to remember everybody that did the drills. I don't remember if he did all the field stuff, but in fairness, he really didn't need to. After you test like that, just like you might just hang out. I don't remember. But regardless, his testing, sensational. Especially at his size. If you're 6'3" and run a 4.38, somebody's going to take a chance on you in the first round. I don't know who, I don't know when, I don't know where, but someone's going to take that chance. So he did great for himself. Then also some of the quarterbacks did well. Justin Herbert looked good. Jalen Hurts looked good. They both ran well too. Showcased it. I mean, we knew Jalen Hurts was gonna be a good athlete, but Justin Herbert looked. Well, he ran a 4.6s, I believe, which is very good for a quarterback, especially not necessarily a running quarterback. I mean, he looks like a good athlete out there playing quarterback, but he's not necessarily known as a runner. So running in the 4.6s is very good, and he looked good throwing the ball today. Like I said, him and Jalen Hurts both looked pretty good. Both helped their cases. And I know that Jalen Hurts talked about people asking him to switch positions. I'm like, yeah, no, not yet. And also, he's not like that big. I guess he's big enough to be a receiver, but like, if you can't catch, you can't catch. And that's the thing about asking people to switch position. I know that's what they said about, like, I think that's what Lamar said, like he can't really catch like that. So it's like, all right, I could be a receiver, I could line up at receiver, but I'm not going to be good at it because that's not what I'm good at. If I'm good at throwing a football and running with the football, then that's what I'm good at. Don't just ask me to switch position for the sake of switching position. That doesn't seem that bright. No one asked Josh Allen to be a tight end because he shouldn't be. Not that he's a great quarterback yet, but he's not. He's also not really a tight end. He's good with the ball in his hands once he gets it, but that doesn't mean he's going to be good at running routes and blocking people and catching the football like that. Like, not everybody can be Julian Edelman. Also, Julian Edelman didn't win a Heisman, so very few Heisman-winning players have been asked to switch positions once they get their pros. That doesn't normally happen that often. Though I know that people ask that of Tebow to a degree, but I mean, no one knows. Again, another thing. If you've been a quarterback your whole life, that you don't have to work on routes, you don't have to work on blocking, catching the football, like all the stuff that would come with being a tight end or a receiver. Like, that's not as easy to do. If it were that easy, more people would be able to get to the league and just switch positions and be, oh, I'm a successful receiver now. Like, the stories are impressive because they don't happen that often. If it was that simple, then everybody would be able to do it. But yeah, so those guys look good. Jordan Love looked pretty good as well, in my personal opinion, from what I saw of him. And like I said, I was looking forward to seeing him because I hadn't seen much of him at Utah State, obviously. And also, I root for a team that doesn't need a quarterback at the moment. So, not a guy that was on my radar. But he did good for himself, had nice size, ran a good 40 time. Looked to have a strong arm out there. So there was a lot of guys that helped himself. Again, a couple guys that maybe ran a little slower, dropped too many passes, didn't make all the throws necessary. But overall, it's a good first day. We'll see how it picks up tomorrow with today when you guys hear this, with the running backs and offensive linemen, and I think some of the special teams guys. But we'll see what the running backs 40 times looking like. So yeah, we'll check that out tomorrow. So after this break, we're going to come back, switch gears to the NBA, and talk about two teams in the West that seem to be going in opposite directions. You may know who I'm talking about, but if you don't, we will discuss all that right after this break. So stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, the two teams in which I was referring to were, well, they both reside in the West, and they are the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Utah Jazz. Now, if my memory serves me correct, I believe I said a couple episodes ago, that the Jazz were a team that I was a little bit worried about potentially dropping back to the pack over these last 25-30 games after the All-Star break. And it seems like, at least for the time being, that has happened. The Jazz are now 6th in the West when they were 3rd or 4th not too long ago. They are now 6th in the West, a half game back of the Thunder, who were the 5 seed, and 2 full games back of the Rockets at the 4 seed, who we'll talk about a little bit more in a couple segments. But yeah, the Jazz were struggling before the All-Star break, and they're struggling now post All-Star break. They've lost 4 in a row. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They got smoked. Did not realize this. They got smoked by the Suns on Monday. Jesus, lost 131-111. Ricky Rubio revenge game. All right, that makes sense. And Donovan Mitchell had 38 too, and they still lost bad. That's when you know it's bad. But yeah, I think either yesterday or today it came out that Mike Conley's going to be on the bench now for I think they're starting Royce O'Neal. I guess they're just going to let Ingles or Mitchell or whoever run point. The Mike Conley experiment has not worked out, which is unfortunate for them because they gave him a good amount of money, if my memory serves me right. Let me just double check. Yeah, he's on I guess maybe he could be traded next year. I think it's the last year of his deal. Yeah, he's on the hook. He's on the hook for $30 million this year, and $32 million next year. And then I think, ooh, Lord, is that a player option? Oh no, he has. Oh no, there's an early termination situation in for next season. All right. So no, he's on the hook for $30 million was last season. He's on the hook for $32 million this season, and then he's on the hook for $34 million. And it becomes fully guaranteed if he plays. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm trying to understand this early termination situation. Okay, in 2019-2020, he will earn that. He signed a 5-year deal with Memphis a couple years ago, and then obviously traded for it. But yeah, so I think there's some sort of early termination situation on 2020-2021. So I guess there's a chance the Jazz could get out of it, and they might honestly have to. Actually, never mind that, because the money's already been fully guaranteed because he's played 55 games this year. So that's not good. Regardless, the Mike Conley experiment has not worked out. He is only averaging 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists this year, while shooting 39% from the field and 36% from 3. So, yeah, not really going well for the Jazz, which is unfortunate because they seem like a point guard, because that's really what they were missing. They just needed a point guard, and you thought, Mike Conley was playing well the past couple of years. Maybe he would be the solution, and unfortunately that has not been the case, and that's part of the reason why they're struggling. I mean, last year he averaged 21, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds. It was 21. Yeah, last year he had a career high in points. Granted, the Grizzlies were not good, but still had a career high in points. Played 70 games. It looked like this might be useful. And now he's played 35 games this year. He's been injured a lot, and when he has played, he hasn't been that good. So it's unfortunate for the Jazz that they got bad Mike Conley. But yeah, so then they just lost to the Suns. They lost to the Rockets. They lost to the Celtics most recently on Wednesday. Then they lost to the Suns before that, lost to the Rockets, who are playing exceptionally well right now. They lost to the Spurs coming out of the All-Star break, which was not great because the Spurs are not that good. And Rudy Gobert was their leading scorer in that game. I'm saying no, it was bad. No offense to Rudy Gobert, but that's just not what he does. He's not a scorer. So there is that. And then, though they did beat the Heat, see, that's what I'm saying. They beat the Heat. And they came into the All-Star break on a 4-game winning streak. Beat the Blazers. Beat the Rockets barely. They should have lost that game, but they didn't. So there is that. They beat the Mavericks. And then they beat the Heat, who were also kind of struggling. And if I wanted to, I could have thrown them in this segment too, because they just lost to the Wolves yesterday with D'Lo. Shout out D'Lo. Had the nice block on Jimmy Butler. That was kind of funny. Lost to the Cavs in overtime. Disaster. Lost to the Hawks. And then lost to the Jazz recently. Lost to the Blazers recently. Lost to the Kings. Like, they've been struggling too, in their own right. So we could have a whole conversation about them. But again, this is about the Jazz currently. And they're struggling. And it's like, all right, if you lose to the Suns and to the Spurs, who aren't good, like, who am I certain you're going to be? Like, they play the Wizards on Friday. Well, today, when you guys are hearing this. Bradley Beal just has one of those nights. You who knows? I mean, they play the Cavs and the Knicks coming up. Those should be wins. But then after that, they play the Pistons. No, not okay. After the Pistons, they play the Raptors, Thunder, Pelicans, Grizzlies, Lakers again, Wolves, Spurs back-to-back, and Mavericks. So all Western Conference teams, all teams pretty much fighting for playoff spots outside of the Wolves. The Spurs are, I guess, technically still not eliminated just yet, because the Grizzlies are back 2 games under 500 now. So yeah, take that back. They play the Raptors, the one team from the East, who, I mean, outside the Bucks, may very well be the best team in the East, depending on who you ask. So that's a rough schedule. That is a rough schedule. Now, granted, they got a decent amount of those games at home, so that helps. But still, and then I'm saying that's their March, and they end the season with Blazers, Nuggets, Clippers, Suns, Thunder, Nuggets. Again, not easy. And like I said, it'd be different if they were playing well, but they're not playing that well right now, so that makes it that much worse, and you're that much more worried about them, because you're just like, do they have the time to fix this? Because, I mean, they're probably still going to make the playoffs, and the last thing you want just to get to the playoffs, get knocked out in the first round. That's not fun. But that's what they're staring at right now. They would be, like I said, they're the 6th seed currently. That means they'd match up with the Clippers. I don't want to face Kawhi and PG, assuming they're healthy in the first round. That's not what I would want if I'm the Jazz. So it's just one of those things. They were once a potential top 4 seed, potentially hosting a playoff. Now they're looking like they're going to be going on the road, and they could very well be a first round exit. And it's just like, it only took a couple weeks. Like I said, they were going good. They've just been bad in their last 10 games, lost 4 in a row, and here we are. And then on the flip side of that, the Thunder are now the 5 seed after they've rattled off 5 wins in a row. And they're 8-2 in their last 10, and again they had another clutch win tonight, where the Thunder had to rally from down 19 in the third to beat the Kings. Again, Kings aren't that good, but it's just what the Thunder do after they have to hold on to. I mean, they have to hold on to beat the Bulls on Tuesday, but before that they beat the Spurs by a lot, beat the Nuggets. Again, the 2 seed? Yeah, I think they're the 2 seed in the West right now, so there's no slouch. Beat the Pelicans before the All-Star break. Lost to the Spurs, mainly because LaMarcus Aldridge kills them all the time. He had 25 and 14 in that game. Lost a close one to the Celtics. Could have won that game. And now they do play the Bucks on Friday, so they'll probably lose that. But still, they seem to be heading in a different direction, and their schedule isn't as daunting as the Jazz schedule is. Like, all right, so they play the Bucks and Clippers coming up. No, not easy at all. They get the Pistons, a little bit of a rest. Knicks, a little bit of a rest. Celtics, Jazz, Wolves, Wizards, Grizzlies, Hawks, Nuggets again, Heat again, who are looking very shaky right now. Hornets, Warriors, Nuggets again who they beat, and Suns, and then now they close out the season a little strong outside the Nets and the Knicks, but they play Suns, Clippers, Lakers, Nets, Knicks, Grizzlies, Jazz, Mavs to close out the season. So, obviously, it's the NBA. You're going to play good teams, but they're a team that seems to find a way to keep it close to just about everybody, and a lot of that comes down to their clutch performance. Their clutch time performance. As we have talked about, and as it's been talked about on many different platforms and shows and what have you, Chris Paul has been one of the best clutch players in the league this year, and because of that, the Thunder have been the best clutch team in the clutch this season. So if the game's close at the end, they're going to have a chance, and generally speaking, they find ways to make all their games close, more or less. So it's very hard to just blow them out and just get them out of here. And because of that, that's why when you play enough close games, you're comfortable coming back from down 19 at home because you just know, all right, we've done it so many times already this season. This is nothing. And I think that kind of thing is kind of scary when you have a team that feels, both good and bad, that feels they can come back from anything. Because then when you can start a little bit slower when all right, we'll just get it together at some point later in the fourth, which has kind of been the issue with Thunder teams over the past couple years. But this team, just in a different way, kind of just doesn't ever really seem to give up. They're always fighting, always clawing, always trying to do whatever they can to make the game interesting. And because of that, they've been very good when the games are close. And that's why they win a bunch of close games and a bunch of games late. And that's why they have a good record right now. They're, 15 games over 500? Which, no one thought. I think they already hit their projected over for the season. Or if they haven't, it's pretty close. Look, they're already at 37 wins before the month of March. Many people thought they were going to be a lottery team. Me, myself included. I wasn't sure how. Well, granted, I didn't think they were going to be like. They weren't worse than the Knicks or the Hawks or the Hornets or Cleveland or any of those teams, or even the Suns. And they weren't worse than them, but I figured they'd be all right, they're fighting for the 8th spot, and then it's just all right, maybe they make it, maybe they don't. But now they're 8.5 games clear of the 8th seed? Barring a catastrophe, they're going to make the playoffs. And now it's just how high could they go? And right now they'd be matched up with the Rockets, which would be a very funny series. Now, I don't want to say the Rockets would win, but, that would just be funny just for storyline purposes. But yeah, so they're very much in the playoffs, and like I said, there's two teams right now in the West, at least, that are going completely opposite directions. Hence why the Thunder are now the 5 and the Jazz are now the 6. And now we'll see. Like I said, there's still a lot of season left. We'll see how it all plays out. But as of this moment right now, if I'm a Jazz fan, I'm a little bit worried, and I'm a Thunder fan, then I'm happy. Again, season's not over today. There's still a lot of work to be done for both of these teams, but as of right now, that's the way I'm looking at them. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes and how it all plays out and where everybody ends up. Though, because like I said, these teams are pretty much set in the playoffs in the West outside of the 8th seed. That's really the only spot that's up for grabs. Again, barring some sort of catastrophe. But yeah, so we got a lot to shake out. There's only, 4.5 games to separate 2 and 7. So the way the standings are now may not be how they end up. So, outside of the 1, because I think the Lakers are they're 5.5 games clear of the 2 seed. So, again, barring LeBron or AD missing significant time, knock on wood, Lakers fans, the Lakers should be fine. But every other spot, 2 through 7, could very well be shifted around over this next month and change. So, we will see how it all goes, and if the Thunder can stay hot, or if they drop, or if they regress to the mean, and if the Jazz can get it figured out. There's still a lot of time left. The season's not over. They still have time to get this thing corrected, but they better act fast, or else they're going to be looking at a potential matchup with the Clippers or the Nuggets, maybe even the Rockets in the first round, and that's not what they would want, I don't think. But, again, maybe they have more confidence in themselves than I do, but I'm just saying I would. If they're anywhere 5, 6, 7, I would not like their chances in most of those series. Unless they got the Thunder. I think they could have a shot against the Thunder. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But we shall see how it all plays out. So coming up after this, we got to talk about a player that has been dominant in the month of February. A young player, that is. And is he arguably a top 5 player in the East now? And maybe just giving it away who I'm talking about. But if you don't know, we will discuss it right after this break.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Didn't know, the player that I was referring to is none other than Jayson Tatum, who is currently, according to StatMuse on Twitter, averaging for the month of February 30.5 points per game, 51.4 field goal percentage, and shooting 50% from 3. And the only other Celtic that has averaged 30 points per game on 50% shooting in a month in the 3-point era was none other than Larry Legend himself, Larry Bird. So I just told you what kind of company Jayson Tatum is in right now. And I mean, honestly, he's played well all season. He was an all-star, so this isn't completely brand new. But, I mean, just something happened. Then this month he decided, like, hey, you know what would be really cool if I just became completely unguardable. And I was like, hey, every shot I'm going to take, I'm just going to make it now. Because that's basically what he's been doing. I mean, and like I said, he's helped push the Celtics up to the 3 seed now, and they are well clear of the 4 and 5 seed. They're 5 games up on the 4 seed Heat right now, and technically the 5 seed Sixers, but they're right on the heels. I mean, they're not going to catch the Bucks, who have already clinched the playoff spot before the month of March, which is absurd when you think about it. But I mean, again, they're 50-8, like, and the 7th seed in the East has 26 wins and 31 losses. So they were bound to clinch a playoff spot. But still, it's absurd to think about. But regardless, I mean, again, Jayson Tatum's not on the team by himself, but he's been a big reason for why the Celtics are 8-2 in their last 10 games and have obviously pushed themselves well into a hold of a top 3 seed. Excuse me. And like I said, they're game back of the 2, so they could potentially even be a top 2 seed. And at least that way you avoid the Pacers or the the Sixers or whoever. Just because Celtics. You don't want to play the Sixers in the first round, even if you think you can beat them. You just don't want that. And the Pacers are going to play hard and try hard, even if you win in 5 or 6 games, it's still going to be tough. But again, this is about Jayson Tatum. So Jayson Tatum, at the tender old age of 21 years old, he just turned 21. He turned 22 in March, I should say. His birthday is March 3rd. So in a few days, he's averaging 23 points on the season, 7 rebounds, 2.9 assists, shooting for the season 45% from the field, 39.7% from 3, 82% from the free throw line. He's the Celtics' leading scorer at 22, which is absurd. He's also played the most games on team outside of Brad Wanamaker, which is kind of crazy, and Grant Williams. That's also kind of crazy. But regardless, he's been arguably the best player all year. Depending on how you feel about him or Kemba or even Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's been good too. But when you look at his month, just look at some of these games he's put up. So, I mean, if you didn't watch that, one of the most recent games, not the most recent, but one of the more recent games he had was that Lakers Sunday afternoon game where he shot 12 of 20 and had 41 points. Though he only had 4 in the fourth quarter. He got the clamps put on him. He was like that Akon song, Locked Up. The Lakers weren't letting him out. And yeah, so that was, he had a good game, but he just didn't do that well in the fourth quarter. They lost by 2, so it probably would have been helped. But outside of that, look at the games he's put up. He had 33 on 65% shooting against the Jazz on Wednesday, 36 on 63% shooting against the Blazers on Tuesday. I guess the Lakers game against the Wolves, he had 28. In the All-Star game, he actually didn't play that much, which is kind of crazy because that's really, someone made the point the only team to hold him down was the only coach to hold him down. The only person to hold, I should say, the only person to hold down Jayson Tatum this month was Frank Vogel. I think because he was on LeBron's team. I'm pretty sure. I gotta check this. Pretty sure I think he was on LeBron's team. Yeah, he was on the LeBron team. So the only person to hold him down this month was Frank Vogel. So I thought that was kind of funny, though. We will get to it. He was also held down by the Rockets. The Rockets game was really his only bad game of the month, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so going back through the games, he had what did he have? He had, okay, so the game before the Lakers game was the Wolves. I already said that. Okay, so against the Clippers, he had 39 on 60% shooting. The Rockets game was a bad game for him. He only had 15 points. His lowest output of the month, I believe. Yeah, his lowest output of the month. Shot 5 of 15, so 0 of 7 from 3. So Covington and those guys definitely held him down. It's really, like I said, it's the only bad game he had. The game before that, they beat the Thunder. He had 26 on 10 of 19 shooting. Made 4 threes, had 11 rebounds in that game. Game before that, against the Hawks, he had 32 on 10 of 19. Against the Magic, he had 33 on 11 of 24. So not as good of a shooting night, but still hit 5 threes. Still had 8 rebounds, 5 assists. A couple steals and a couple blocks. Or maybe just steals. Scratch out on the blocks. No, he had 2 blocks too. 2 blocks, 3 steals. I thought I read the stat line right. Then against the Hawks, he put in a solid 10 of 20, 28 points, 5 threes. And then against the Sixers, he 7 of 19, so not great shooting. But still at 25, made 3 threes, had a couple assists, a couple rebounds. So yeah, if you look through, you look through the month. I mean, outside of the one game where he had the 15 against the Rockets, he's had at least 25 points in every game. At least 25, which I mean that's top tier level scorer type of stuff. I mean, again, it's not anything. It's not like a James Harden or like a Kobe type of month where like those guys are going for like 40 a night basically, and on their big months. But I mean, for a young guy who's only, like I say, he's only 21, about to be 22, that's very impressive. In some of those games, I know that Lakers game, he didn't have Kemba. I know Kemba's missed some games recently. And honestly, they probably could have used him a little bit just down the stretch because he's the guy that I would 100% trust in those late game situations. I mean, that's what he did for the Hornets. That's what he did at UConn. So he probably could have helped them against the Lakers. But nonetheless, Jayson Tatum has been carrying his end of been holding up his end of the bargain and doing it very well. And that's why I'm saying it kind of got. I know they talked about it on Twitter a little bit, just like where does he rank in the Eastern Conference now? And it's arguable. Again, this is without KD and without Kyrie being healthy. Like outside of Embiid, you could argue because I still think Embiid's probably the second best player in the East behind Giannis. But after that, like who else are you 100% certain right now is better than Jayson Tatum? Ben Simmons? Maybe. Jimmy Butler? Maybe. Siakam? Maybe. Chris Middleton? Probably not. But, no, I mean, Chris Middleton's not bad. Like, I don't want to knock Chris Middleton. He's an all-star. And I mean, obviously, he's played well in the couple games Giannis has had to sit. But outside of that, Bradley Beal's been very good. Trae Young, Zach LaVine's been good this year. But like there's a legitimate case to be made that Jayson Tatum's the third best player in the East right now. Well, he's playing like the third best player in the East. I mean, again, no KD and no Kyrie. But there's a legitimate case. No one would be that mad at you if you said, all right, outside of Giannis and Embiid, there's no one else I would want in the East than Jayson Tatum right now. Because, I mean, like, you have guys, like I said, the Trae Youngs of the world, I mean, that he's putting up great numbers, but Atlanta's literally the worst team in the East. So, I mean, how much does that matter? The Wizards are at least... Bradley Beal's trying to keep them afloat. He's doing everything he can. I mean, he had, back-to-back 50-point nights, and they still lost. I know they just won the other day. Yeah, they just beat the Nets. But he had suffered 3 straight losses, and in those 3 losses, he had 55 against the Bucks in overtime, and he lost that game. Though, and Giannis played, so it's not even like it wasn't even like they sat Giannis situation. Chris Middleton at 40. He only hit 2 threes. That's impressive. But yeah, he had 55 points in that game, hit 8 threes. They lost in overtime. Game before that, he had 50 against... Who did he have 50 against? Stupid ESPN app. Doesn't want to work for me. He had 50 against the Bulls. He had 53 against the Bulls. They lost. That was a bad loss. Then he lost to the Cavs before. No, it's just like he's doing his part. He's averaging 30 points on the season. 6 assists, 4.4 rebounds. Shooting... His 3-point percentage is still atrocious. I forgot about that. We're shooting 46% from the field. Imagine what he would be shooting if he wasn't shooting 33% from 3. But yeah, so I mean he's doing great. But I mean 30 points on a really bad team or 23 points on a playoff team. Teach his own. Like I said, Ben Simmons averaging something like 17, 8, and 8, somewhere around there. Great numbers. Siakam is averaging. Well, I know he was an MVP candidate earlier in the year before he got hurt. But he's averaging, 23, 7, and 7.5, and 3. All right. I could give you Siakam if you wanted to argue Siakam's better than Tatum right now. Though, in fairness, he's also 4 years older. So, there is that. But outside of that, I mean, there's not many... Like I said, I love Trae Young, but defense, he's one of the worst defenders in the league. And also, I mean, he's putting up great numbers, but the team is super sorry. Again, not his fault. He's doing his best. It's the same way I don't knock Bradley Beal. Like, you can only do so much. And if, like I said, their team's just hindered by the fact that John Wall's hurt and he's getting paid a lot of money. If he was healthy, obviously they'd be better. And then, B, they'd be another player that's a big reason why they're kind of in the situation they are, just because he's hurt and they can't pay that money to anybody else, so it's all tied up to him. So, yeah, I'm just saying, and I'm not just saying this is hyperbole because of the month, but just based on the way he's played this season, you could argue, at the very least, I feel like comfortable saying Jayson Tatum's been a top 5 player in the East this year. And you could argue he might be the 3rd or 4th best player in the East right now. Especially if he keeps this up. If he keeps this up, then he's going to come into the season as one of the top 10, top 15 players in the league coming into next season. But I mean, it's hard to keep up what he's been doing. Like I said, he's dropping 25 a game every game except for the one, and he's been had multiple 30s in that same realm, in that same time span, I should say. So I'm just saying, if you haven't been paying attention to Jayson Tatum, pay attention to him a little bit now, because this way you won't be shocked when he's showing out in the playoffs again. You're just like, oh wow, I did not know Jayson Tatum was this good. Like, yeah, no, he's been doing this for a while now. At least this season, let me know. So, though, I mean, he was really good in that playoff run. His rookie year. Had that nice little dunk on Braun. Shouldn't have chest bumped him, though. That kind of got Braun fired up, and then obviously the Celtics went out sad after that. But he was great in that entire playoff run. Part of the reason why they even made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They honestly could have made the finals that year. They would have got smoked by the Warriors, but they could have made the finals that year. They had the lead at home. Just couldn't hold it. But yeah, no, Jayson Tatum. If you haven't been paying attention, pay attention now. He's got some I think they have some big games coming up. Who do they play? They play the Rockets again on Saturday. That'll be a big one to see if he can bounce back from that. They play the Thunder coming up. They play the Bucks again on the 12th of March on TNT, 8 p.m. game. That'll be a big one. They play the Raptors on NBA TV in March as well. So they got a couple big games coming up, and they close out the season with another game against the Bucks and a game against the Heat. This other Bucks one's on ABC on a Sunday. So that's a Sunday primetime game. So they got some big games. So you're gonna have some opportunities to watch Jayson Tatum if you haven't been already. I think there's this Rockets game on. Is this Rockets game on ESPN? It should be. No, it's on ABC. That's Friday, Saturday. So yeah, no, they got. So the Celtics have some primetime games coming up. So if you haven't been paying attention to Jayson Tatum, I advise you to tune in because he's playing exceptional right now. He's probably going to win Player of the Month in the East. I don't know who else they'd give it to. On the West, it's a different story because Russ and Harden are playing very well, which we will get to in a segment or two. But like I'm saying, Jayson Tatum, if you haven't been paying attention, he's been great. Celtics are playing great because of it, and we will see if they can keep it up. Hold on to that 3 seed, maybe even push for the 2. See how high Celtics can end up. But yeah, Jayson Tatum, top 5 player in the East. I feel like that's not a bold statement or a hot take, if you will. Don't feel like that's that hot at all. I feel like it's pretty cool. Maybe even lukewarm at best. But yeah, so he's been great. But after this break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the global crisis we are in with this whole coronavirus situation and how it could potentially impact the Olympics in a few months. I did not ever think we would see a cancellation of an Olympic Games, but it's very much on the table right now. And we're going to talk about how and what can be done between now and then. Also, what I would do if I were a potential athlete going over to Japan during this time period. So we'll talk about all that stuff right after this break. So stay tuned.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back here again with GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So yeah, are they going to have to cancel the Olympics, or maybe not cancel, but postpone them, if you will? I mean, I think it's very much on the table. So I was reading this article from Forbes from, I guess it was Thursday, and they were talking about how the IOC is going to have to consider canceling postponing the Olympics due to coronavirus, and I mean at this point now, because I mean in the beginning it was mainly just China that was affected. And it was like, all right, we're going to screen everybody that comes in and out of China, all that fun stuff. But now it seems like it's touching every part of the world at least a little bit, not a lot. Like there's a couple of cases in America, there's a couple cases here, a couple cases there. But any disease that is causing people to perish is worth being mindful of. Now, granted, people also do die from the flu and a slew of other things in America, so this isn't like top of the leaderboard in terms of the things that we should be most worried about as Americans, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't worry at all. And because of that, and because of the fact that it's not just contained in China anymore, there are cases all over the country. I mean, on Thursday, California Governor Gavin Newsom said the state is monitoring at least 8,400 people for the virus, with 31 confirmed cases, though the number is rapidly changing. At this point, it's imperative for the head of every major organization to start bracing for the worst. So this, again, we could be in bad shape in terms of a national or global pandemic or epidemic, whatever the word is to describe a disease of a great magnitude that's sweeping over the world. That's where we're at right now, and that's not necessarily a fun thing to be a part of. Not even one bit. And because of that, the International Olympic Committee also has to prepare for that as well. Because if the countries are preparing for that, then that means the Olympic Committee has to prepare for that because it's an Olympic year. Now, I mean, they faced a similar thing with, I'm pretty sure that Brazil was the Olympics in 2016. And they had some issues with, in terms of, like, I think that was right around the Zika stuff. You had it in Rio. Rio de Janeiro. So yeah, that was right around the Zika stuff, and they weren't sure if all the stuff was going to get built in time, which is a completely separate disaster. But yeah, so I know people were like worrying about going over there. Granted, no one really caught anything, but also at the time, the Zika stuff was basically just contained in Brazil. It wasn't a global virus, which coronavirus is at the moment. So. Again, it's not. Now we're not just worried about people going over to Japan or going over to China and catching this. Now they could catch it wherever they're at. Like it's not just isolated to one country or one area of the world. It's slowly but surely spreading all over. And when you have something like the Olympics, where you are going to have a bunch of people congregated or coming together in one specific location. You get even 1 or 2 cases of coronavirus mixed in with that batch. Now you're going back and infecting even more people. So it's something to keep in mindful of because, again, the Olympic Committee doesn't have to decide on anything, I think, officially until, like, the end of May. So they got a lot of time, but they got to at least start preparing. Like this might not go down. It doesn't seem like they're at that level yet. Again, according to this Forbes article, IOC President Thomas Bach, however you pronounce it, told Japanese reporters on a conference call Thursday that the IOC is fully committed to a successful Olympic Games in Tokyo starting July 24th and refused to take any questions about scheduling alternatives. The hubris, this person said, the hubris is potentially life-threatening. Again, I'm not going that hard on them, but I mean it is pretty bold of them to say that they are 100% committed and refuse to take any questions about scheduling alternatives. Because at least you have to at least be thinking about it, whether or not. You say it publicly, and you could have just said that, hey, we're discussing things internally. We don't have to divulge to the people what your plan is, because, again, it's not important for us. But it's at least important for them to think about it. And apparently at this point, at least at the time of this article, there are 170 confirmed coronavirus cases in Japan, making it number 4 in the world. The lethal virus has infected about 80,000 people globally and killed a little under 3,000, which I mean isn't that many people. So that's what I've been talking about with people, is that the coronavirus hasn't killed like that many people in total. But again, any disease where people are dying is worth keeping an eye on. So I get it from that standpoint. And obviously, like I said, the majority of the deaths occurring in mainland China. So yeah, it's just something that they need to keep an eye on, just because it's a concern and a worry, and it's just that, like, alright, like, so say the end of May, the thing's still not under control the way you'd want it to be. Maybe it's gotten worse, maybe it's just maintained, maybe it's gotten a little bit better, better being like, there's not as many confirmed cases anymore, but there's still enough. What do? Do you postpone it? Do you cancel it altogether? Or do you just let it run and just hope for the best? And I think with something like this, or something that's already as widespread as the coronavirus is, it would be highly, highly dangerous if it's not completely controlled by the time I guess in 2 or 3 months from now. If not completely controlled, then I think you at least have to consider. I mean, you don't have to consider postponing. You honestly might have to consider canceling. And that's the thing, is that when you cancel the Olympics, when you cancel an event that happens once every 4 years, that's a big deal. Because there's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of time, planning, thinking that goes into hosting the Olympics. Like, it's not just a simple thing. So, postponing it makes some sense, just because at least the Tokyo has already been preparing for the stuff, so it's not that hard for them to just have more time to prepare. But canceling it all together now, not only is that hurting the country, because again, I imagine you get some sort of money from all the influx of people coming to your country for the Olympics. You also hurt these athletes who, again, there's a lot of these athletes, like, not all these guys are basketball or, like, I don't know, do they have, I forget if they have baseball in the Olympics now still, or like track people or whoever, where there's and maybe just actually take that back, maybe just basketball, because basketball is the one whose main prize isn't necessarily in terms of like the pinnacle of their sport isn't necessarily the Olympics. A lot of other sports it is. Track and field, swimming, soccer, like all the other miscellaneous sports that you have throughout, like volleyball, beach volleyball, what else? Archery, rowing, like whatever, all different Olympic events. A lot of the pinnacle of those sports is the Olympics. So a lot of people train hard. Gymnastics, like a lot of people train hard for this moment. So to take that away, now there's a whole group of athletes that may never get to compete in the Olympics. Because again, it happens once every 4 years. Some of these, especially gymnastics, some of these sports, they're always cycling in new people, as well, younger people mainly, because again they're smaller and can compete, and such, more nimble, more flexible, all that stuff. So there are going to be athletes. A lot of gymnasts only compete in one Olympics. Not everybody can be good enough to compete in multiple Olympics. So if most of them are only doing one, then if they don't do this one, then they're never going to get to do an Olympics, and that's, like I said, that's the pinnacle of their sport. This is what you work and train and work hard for since you were a kid, to get the Olympics and perform well on that stage. And now it's just like that all would be wiped out. Same with track and field. Some of these guys, this may either be their last shot or maybe this will be their best shot. You never really know. And now they're missing swimming. Same thing. Now to see who's going to take over, and like no Michael Phelps this times, to see who's going to be the next great. I mean, they have some great, like Katie Ledecky and some other people, in terms of great American swimmers, but just who's going to take over that mantle, for like 100% now. Like I'm saying, there's a lot of things that would, a lot of moments and opportunities that people would be missing out on if they can't do the Olympics. And again, there's a reason behind it, like a national or global virus is a worthy enough thing to be like, hey, let's not do the Olympics in Japan right now. But also, it's like, hey, if I'm an athlete, I wouldn't be that happy about it. I mean, again, I would also want to be healthy, so there is that. I understand that aspect of it. But again, people with the Brazil stuff, people didn't care. They still went over there. A lot of NBA players didn't, but like they still fielded the team. Now, granted, Draymond Green was on that team, and no offense to Draymond, but like if you're putting a team together, the 12 best Americans, Draymond's not on that list. I'm sorry. And no knock to him. Like I said, he's multiple-time champion, Defensive Player of the Year, multiple-time All-Star, much better at basketball than I will ever be. But again, he's just not a guy that would make a list of the 12 best Americans playing basketball right now. There's no list that he would ever be on that is compiled that way. But yeah, so you saw guys like Steph didn't play, like Harden didn't play, LeBron didn't play, Russ didn't play. Like a lot of big name guys dropped that because like, no, it's not worth the risk. And I'm curious to see if people would do that, because it was really only bad. Like most of the other sports, people are like, yeah, nah, I'm going. Because again, it's just like that's it for them. Like in the NBA, like in sports like the NBA, or even like if football was ever like to make it to the Olympics, which it couldn't because no one outside of America really plays football like that. Or I guess North America, because Canada does, but there's not like many. There's not like people play basketball all over. Baseball, same thing. But even for baseball, it's like if they were have like gold medal is cool, but like people play for the World Series. That's what most people care about. So that's why America-wise, it wouldn't really matter. But overseas and all in these other sports, like this is the Olympics are it. So canceling that would be a big deal. It'd be a huge deal. But it'd be a deal that I would understand if they decide to do. Because again, you can't risk a global epidemic. And now we're just, alright, we're going to bring all these people here. And now they go back, contract. Again, all you need is just 1 to 2 to 3 people to have it. Now they go back and infect the rest of their friends, the rest of their family. Now they're going back and infecting their country. And now it's spread even more than where we already are at. So it's something that I think the AFC is going to have to at least consider. I don't know if we're there. Like, we're not there yet. They don't have to make a decision yet, but it's at least something to where it's like, yeah, we need to talk about this. This is bad. This is bad. And, like, what do we do if that? Maybe you hope to postpone it, hope to do it in, like, December or whatever, but I don't know what the... But then you can't, like I'm saying, is the summer works because, again, mainly basketball-wise, they're not in season. Like you have to push it back, like, or like you postpone it another year, but even that's weird because now the next Olympics is in 3 years, and now that gives that host country less time to prepare. Though I guess they already know who it is, but like again, I imagine there's certain steps and procedures you have to do 4 years out that they won't be doing now because the Olympics haven't happened yet. And same thing for the athletes. It's like, all right, you have that. You train for every 4th year. All right, this is what I'm doing, and now you would cut it down, and maybe that would affect people's training. I don't know. It'd be weird, but it's something that we may very well see. We may see a postponement or a cancellation of the Olympics, which is, I don't know. I mean, Olympics have been going on for forever, so maybe it's happened before, but at least in my lifetime or my memory, I can't think of any instance where this has happened or something like this has happened. So this would be a historic moment in the Olympics, and unfortunately, not in a good way. So it'd be interesting to see what happens if I'm an athlete. I think I don't know if it's worth the risk for me and my family to be like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go over where there's a lot of people infected with this disease, and I'm just gonna hope I don't get it. Because now they have a vaccine or, I guess vaccine. Now they have a vaccine or something to make you immune to it. Like, they don't have that yet because it's a very new disease. So you're just rolling the dice. And I don't know if I know it's the Olympics and that's really good opportunity and stuff, but I don't know if I'm rolling the dice on that one. But that's just me. So we'll see what these athletes do, because these athletes are built different than I am. Maybe it doesn't affect them, and hey, more power to them. But I'm just saying this is definitely a scary situation and something that I hope the IOC is taking very seriously, because they need to be, because this is very important. But we will see what happens with that over the next few months. So after this last break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how not only is the Houston Rockets plan working, But are Russ and Harden right now the best duo in the league? Because they might be. They honestly might. So we're going to talk about that right after this break, so stay tuned.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
GSMC Podcast Network. So I'm going to run you through some great duos that we have, not just this year, but over the course of the league. Hosted the modern era, I should say, because, I mean, going back in time with Wilton, whoever, these numbers might not hold up. But so 2000-2001, Shaq and Kobe, as a duo, averaged 57.2 points per game. In 2018-2019, KD and Steph averaged 53.3 points per game. In 2010-2011, LeBron and D Wade averaged 52.2. And in this season, currently, LeBron and AD are averaging 52.2 between the two of them. In 2012-2013, KD and Russ averaged 51.3. And in 2006, I should say, 2006-2007, Yao Ming and T-Mac, Tracy McGrady, averaged 49.6 points combined. All those are great numbers, but why am I reading these off to you? Do you know who has more, or which duo is averaging more points in a season currently than all those duos combined? Yes. It is Russ and Harden. And not only are they doing it, it's not even close. They are averaging 62.5 points per game this year. Over 5 points more than the next highest duo, which is Shaq and Kobe. That is how prolific this duo has been this season. This is like, well, this is honestly arguable. I think this is the most in the modern era. Yeah, it's the most in the modern era. Again, like I said, Wilton, somebody else probably had more than this at some point. But in the modern era of the NBA, this is the most points that the two teammates have ever scored. And like I'm saying, when you look at that and you look at the way in which the Rockets have played recently, the way in which they have kind of elevated their team, they're up to the 4s. Yeah, they're up to the 4 seed now in the West, playing great, and their level of play on offense between the two of them is arguably unmatched. I think, the ESPN's After Info tweeted this out after they beat the Grizzlies on Wednesday. They tweeted this out Thursday, I should say, Thursday morning. So, they said, last night, James Harden and Russell Westbrook scored 30-plus points in the same game for the 7th time this season, 3 more than any other duo in the NBA. The Rockets are 6-1 in those games. That is absurd when you think about it. They have, 3 more 30-plus point games combined than any other duo in the league. But when you think about it, it's like, all right, I can believe, because outside of LeBron and AD, like, what other duos are getting 30 points? Like, you could say in theory it should be PG and Kawhi, but they haven't played enough games together. And both of them have been in and out of the lineup, so it's hard for him to get that rhythm down. But outside of that, who else? Giannis and Middleton? Yeah. Ben Simmons didn't shoot the ball enough to ever be, for him and Embiid to ever get 30 points in the same game. Not that it's impossible, but it's not for it to happen often enough. He doesn't shoot the ball enough. Like Steph and Clay are out. KD and Kyrie are out. The KD and Kyrie are going to do that probably a lot next year. But outside of that, what other duos could you see doing this? It's literally just LeBron and AD. Honestly, in my personal opinion, it's just LeBron and AD. But yeah, they are just allowing the Rockets have gone all in on the small ball lineup, and because of that, they are maximizing the potential of the Russ and Harden duo. And as of right now, the results have been exceptional. During the month of February, which is when they pulled off the Clint Capella trade and allowed PJ Tucker to be their small ball center, Russ is averaging 32.3 points per game and shooting 52% from this field, his highest average of the season so far. On top of that, according to NBAstats.com, this is from an article on Rockets Wire from USA Today, Russ is shooting 65.6% on shots in the restricted area this month, due to the fact that the paint is now wide open because they're going 5 out. And if you wanted to continue to pile stats, because that's what the Rockets do, they're a very analytically driven organization, so might as well throw some stats at them. According to NBA.com stats again, Westbrook leads the NBA in drives per game at 20 and scores 11.5 points 11.5 points on them per game. So again, they're finding a way to maximize Russ while also continuing to allow Harden to do what he does. He's still leading. Harden is still leading the league in scoring. He averaged 33 points in the month of February. He was starting to. January he was shooting terribly, which is why I said it was maybe Russ's team. But now he's starting to shoot better again. And now it's just both of their teams. I would still say that the only reason they're playing this style of play is because of Russ. If they had Chris Paul, Clint Capella, I think is still here. They don't go all in on the small because Russ can't shoot threes, so they needed to leave half the paint open so he could drive. That's what he's best at. And that's what people have been saying. They should have been 5 out. You would have thought Sam Presti would have thought to do that at some point with the Thunder. Just try to surround him with good shooters that could also defend a little bit, but that's not what they went with. And now they try to pair him with another superstar. While him and PG were great last year until PG tore his shoulders up. Again, they just never went all in on it like the Rockets had this season, so I give them credit for that. And it's working. And it is working. Just like I said, Harden was shooting bad from 3 in January. This is a bad month, but this in February, shooting almost 40% from 3. His second highest in any month. He shot 42.5% in December. And yeah. So they've been great. And like I said, they're with players that play only 10 plus minutes. That play 10 or more minutes a game. They're the only pair of teammates to both rank in the top 10 in usage percentage. And again, it hasn't affected them. So, are they the best duo in the league? Probably not. Again, it's probably close. You run through all the best duos. Kawhi and PG. Gotta give them the nod. Gotta give Russ and Harden the nod, because again, they just play more together. Giannis and Middleton. Giannis is the MVP. But if you put the 4 of them together, you take Giannis, then you take Russ and Harden before you take Middleton, personally. Simmons and Embiid. Simmons doesn't shoot. Granted, Russ didn't shoot either, but I still think you probably still take them. Russ and Harden, at least the way they're playing right now, and also the fact that at least they seem to get along with each other. Though, I don't want to say that. I don't want to start up more Sixers and drama, because I don't think I'm not as much all in on the Simmons Embiid beef, if you will, but I know they at least play well together. Like, their styles complement each other. Simmons and Embiid styles don't complement each other because, again, Simmons doesn't shoot. Who else? Like, what other... Like, I'm trying to think who else. Most of the good duos in the league. Like I said, Steph and Clay are hurt. KD and Kyrie are hurt. Go through the East. There's no real good duos left. Tatum and Kemba. Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Like, no, it's not even close. Again, I like Jayson Tatum too, but it's not even close. Who else in the West? Like Zion and Brandon Ingram? No, they're too young. Jokic and Murray. Murray's too inconsistent for me. Jokic is great, but Murray's a little too inconsistent for me. Who else? Like Dame and CJ? No. The only other duo I probably, and I give them the nod just a slight bit just because they do have their team at number one in the West, is probably AD and LeBron. It's probably the only duo that's better than Russ and Harden right at this current moment. Like, outside of that, Russ and Harden are the best duo, and that's just funny because many people before the season, me included, were a little skeptical on how it would work. Everyone's like, oh, there's only one basketball, like how are they both need the ball, how are they going to play off each other, blah, blah, blah. Now, it took them a little bit to find their groove, but they found it now. And now everything's good. You don't even hear that. You don't even hear that discussed anymore. No one has talked about them having issues. And again, it helps that they are actually really good friends off the court. And they obviously played together before. When they were both younger, but they played together before. Like, it's not like these guys weren't just thrown together for the first time. Like they knew each other and they played together before. So the fact that they're having success is not shocking to me. I still wasn't sure exactly how it was going to work, though. They did need to trade their starting center to maximize it, and obviously I didn't envision that happening. But if you're going to go all in. I respect it. If you trade for a guy, you should do everything you can to make sure he's successful, and that's exactly what the Rockets have done. And I respect them and praise them for that, because not many teams would be willing to just be like, hey, let's do something completely unorthodox and out of the ordinary and not traditional, and see if it works. And at least if it does, and if it works, then we're geniuses. If it doesn't work, at least we tried. Like, the team they had with Capella plus Russ is, it's like, it's good, but it's like, this is not the best version of the Rockets. And the best version of the Rockets is the ones we're seeing right now. And hence why they're playing so great. And again, there's still a month and change left in the season. It's not all over yet, but I mean, there's a reason why the Rockets are 8-2 in their last 10 and have won 5 in a row. There's a reason for that, and it's because the style of play. And again, the only game they lost recently was that miraculous. I mean, great, they lost back-to-back games after beating the Lakers, I should say, which was kind of weird. Got smoked by the Suns. But yeah, they lost on that miraculous Bogdanovich buzzer beater. So they could have won 6 in a row heading into this upcoming Celtics matchup on Saturday. So yeah, I'm just saying, if you really think and look and see the way the Rockets have played recently, the way Russ and Harden specifically have played recently, and think about all the other duos across the league. Again, 2 of the big ones are hurt right now, so that does help them a little bit. But still, you could make the legitimate case that they are top 2 duos in the league, and maybe even not 2. You can make, like, if someone argued that, I mean, Rockets fans will argue that, but if someone made that argument, I'm like, I could see it. I still give it to LeBron and AD just because you have to. In my personal opinion, they're the best team in the West. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. They're the best team in the West. They're just playing together for the first time this year, and their chemistry is impeccable. On the court, at least. I don't know too much about off the court, but on the court, it's there. You would thought they would play together for a while. But outside of that, there's not a duo in the league I would take over Russ and Harden right now. Now, again, all that matters is the playoffs for these guys, because they are 2 guys. Russ hasn't been out of the first round since KD left. And Harden has had his fair share of mishaps in the playoffs. So what's most important will be how they perform in the playoffs. And at least, hopefully, I mean, people are still going to slander them even if they lose, just because that's the way social media works. It's the blessing and the curse of it. But at the same time, at least if they go out and they go out swinging, I mean, there's not much they can regret about it, and that's what it seemed like they're at least going to do. They're going to go out swinging. Whatever happens, happens. They may not beat the Lakers. They may beat the Lakers. They may not beat the Bucks. They may beat the Bucks if they get to the finals. They may not even beat the Nuggets. Like, who knows? No one knows right now. They may not beat the Clippers. Who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is that they're going to go down doing it their way, and that I can respect. That I can respect. And as Russ says, why not? Why not do things the best way for the Rockets? Why not? And that's, like I said, that's what they're doing. They're going all in, and it has led them to have, at worst, the second best duo in the league, and the highest scoring duo of the modern era. I mean, that's what more could you have asked for when you put these two guys together? What more? Honestly, what more could you have asked for? I don't know, because if you told them they average 62 points combined, I'd be like, hey, make that trade 10 times out of 10. And obviously it worked for the Thunder too, so everybody's happy. But I'm saying, if I'm the Rockets and you tell me they're going to be the highest scoring duo of the modern era, I take it. Now, again, playoffs are playoffs. We'll see what happens. But right now, the Daryl Morey, the owner, the players, coaches, whoever, D'Antoni, Harden, everybody's got to be happy with the way it's turned out. And I guess we'll just have to see how it turns out at the end of the season. But that'll do it here for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys for listening as always. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your days to listen to me talk about sports for an hour and a half plus. But like I said, thank you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. If you could please give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review, we'd be very appreciated. If you're on social media, we are also on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can discuss. You can tell me why Giannis and Middleton are a better duo than Russ and Harden. Embiid and Simmons are a better duo than Russ and Harden. You can tell me why Joe Burrow should have thrown at the NFL Combine. You can tell me who you're looking forward to seeing at the Combine in day 2, day 3, day 4. You can tell me why the Jazz are going to be fine. You can tell me why you don't think the Olympics should be canceled. All that fun stuff. Or just anything else. Anything else that is on your minds about the world of sports. I and the other people at the GSMC Podcast Network are more than welcome to talk with GSMC Sports Podcast Network, I should say. Are more than willing to talk to you about sports. So, if you have any thoughts, ideas, topics you want to discuss, find us. Get in our mentions, DMs, whatever. However you want to communicate with us, do it. And we will be more than willing to debate, discuss, have a dialogue with you. All that fun stuff. But I've been Chris Blades. I want to thank you for your time. This has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.